The weight of expectation pressed down on her like a storm cloud as she sat across from her parents, their words sharp and calculated. "He'll forget about you," they warned, their voices laced with venomous certainty. Marcus's long hours at his prestigious new job became fuel for their insidious narrative. He was slipping away, they claimed, pushing her toward a life she never wanted, trapped in the role of a homemaker while he soared higher. Her chest tightened at the thought. Hadn't she always prided herself on being unstoppable? Yet here she was, struggling to find work that matched his success, feeling like an imposter in her own marriage. Her parents weren't alone in their campaign. Even Marcus's family joined the chorus, whispering doubts into her already fragile mind. They painted him as someone who had grown up watching his mother stay home, and now, they insisted, he expected the same from her. The idea gnawed at her resolve. Was this why he seemed so content letting her handle the household chores? Each day, the walls of her confidence closed in tighter, suffocating her ambition. She felt like a bird caged by invisible bars, unable to spread its wings. One evening, under the dim glow of her bedside lamp, something inside her snapped. Without a word to anyone, not even Marcus, she packed her bags and vanished. It wasn't just leaving, it was unraveling. Days blurred together in a haze of tears and silence. Hunger clawed at her stomach, but eating felt too monumental a task. Shadows darkened beneath her eyes, her reflection unfamiliar in cracked mirrors. For weeks, she existed in limbo, haunted by guilt and confusion. Could she really walk away from the man who loved her? But love has a way of finding what's lost. With the help of the police, Marcus tracked her down. When he saw her, gaunt, disheveled, broken, he didn't hesitate. His arms wrapped around her like a lifeline, pulling her back from the abyss. Tears streamed down his face as he held her close, murmuring reassurances she barely registered through her shame. In that moment, clarity struck her like lightning. She'd let fear and manipulation drive her to madness. Therapy became her sanctuary, untangling the web of self-doubt spun by years of parental conditioning. Slowly, she rebuilt herself, not as a competitor, but as a partner. A stable job followed, modest yet fulfilling. And though she maintained contact with both sets of parents, trust remained elusive. Their sudden concern upon her return rang hollow, their earlier betrayal etched deep in her memory. Why had they tried so hard to tear them apart? The question lingered unanswered, festering quietly. Months later, seated beside Marcus one quiet evening, she finally confessed everything. His expression shifted from understanding to fury as she recounted their family's schemes. He listened intently, jaw clenched, until a final detail spilled out. Then, without hesitation, he reached for his phone. The call to his parents was brief but scathing, a definitive severance. Turning to her afterward, his voice softened. "I get it," he said simply. "But I won't forgive them." And there it hung, their shared defiance against those who sought to destroy what they built. But the real mystery remained. Why would two families, bound by decades of friendship, conspire to sabotage their union? The truth unraveled like a thread pulled from an old sweater, leaving her clutching at the fraying edges of trust. Marcus revealed what he'd known all along. Their families weren't just distant, they were locked in a feud as tangled as briars. "I didn't know about your parents," he admitted, his voice low and measured, "but mine never wasted time. As soon as we left social gatherings, the car became their stage for gossip." Her stomach churned at the thought. Her own family waited until behind closed doors to unleash their venom. His words painted a picture, two households bound by brutal civility, united only in their disdain for one another. And yet, neither side had dared oppose their marriage outright. Why? Because rebellion would have driven them closer together. Instead, they played the long game, biding their time until vulnerability cracked open a door. When she fled, it wasn't chance that both sets of parents whispered the same poison into her ear. It was strategy, a calculated strike while she teetered on the edge of despair. Their voices echoed now in her mind, layered with false concern and veiled accusations. She shivered despite herself. Was this why her in-laws joined the chorus, urging her to leave? Their involvement carried weight, tipping the scales of doubt until she toppled over. Marcus believed their actions stemmed from decades-old grudges buried under polite smiles. He theorized that their meddling wasn't random, it was revenge simmering beneath the surface. The revelation hit her like cold water splashing against her face. Could she have been so blind? Yesterday, her parents reached out again, pleading through email for one last conversation. They begged for closure, claiming innocence and wrapping themselves in emotional appeals. On the call, her mother's tears flowed freely, each sob punctuated by declarations of love and hurt pride. "How could you think we'd sabotage your happiness?" she wailed, her voice trembling. Her father chimed in, insisting their intentions were pure, unlike those of her in-laws. Their words wrapped around her like fog, obscuring clarity. After hanging up, confusion settled heavily in her chest. Who should she believe? Her husband, whose instincts had proven unshakable, or her parents, who sounded so raw and sincere? Marcus warned her gently not to fall prey to manipulation again. "You're still healing," he reminded her, his tone firm but kind. "Your heart is too tender right now, you'll believe anything." His observation stung because it rang true. Ever since speaking to her parents, she found herself swayed by every word thrown her way, no matter how flimsy. This newfound vulnerability frightened her more than anger ever could. For the first time, someone urged her to guard her trust. Not everyone deserved it, especially those who harbored resentment toward her spouse. A hidden history surfaced then, one she'd never suspected. Decades earlier, betrayal had torn their families apart, her uncle's infidelity shattered an engagement between relatives, sparking scandal and bitterness. Though years dulled its sharpness, the wound festered silently, poisoning roots unseen. Now, faced with this knowledge, she understood why her parents acted as they did, but understanding didn't mean forgiveness. Her resolve hardened like frost spreading across glass. If they sought to destroy her marriage, they wouldn't succeed, not anymore. She severed ties once more, blocking them without hesitation. Yet guilt gnawed at her edges when comments online accused her of naivety, calling her foolish for trusting so easily. Harsh words, though deserved, struck deep. Therapy taught her to confront her flaws, but public judgment felt like salt rubbed into fresh wounds. Still, she reminded herself, kindness costs nothing. Perhaps others forgot that pain often blinds even the strongest among us. Days later, her parents appeared unannounced at her doorstep, hoping to catch her alone. But fate intervened, Marcus answered instead. What followed was chaos bottled within four walls. Accusations flew like daggers, aimed squarely at him. "You've stolen our daughter," they spat, their fury palpable. Stolen? The absurdity of the claim struck her later, evoking bitter laughter. No one owned her, not them, not Marcus. She belonged solely to herself. Their tirade exposed the truth they tried so desperately to conceal. Their hatred for his family ran deeper than any love for her. By attempting to drive a wedge between them, they revealed their priorities and sealed their fate. Weeks passed before legal papers arrived, notifying her of her removal from their will. Everything went to Cousins now, nothing remained for her. Unless she divorced Marcus. The audacity of their ultimatum left her breathless. Did they truly believe wealth held such power over her? She laughed, a sharp, defiant sound. Let them keep their inheritance. She already possessed something far greater.